churches, and at political meetings. These developments should not surprise any student of history. Oppressed people cannot remain oppressed forever. The yearning for freedom eventually manifests itself. The Bible tells the thrilling story of how Moses stood in Pharaoh's court centuries ago and cried, "Let my people go." And Sarah's going to read just another short, inspiring quote.
Sorry. Freedom is never voluntary, given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I see that Ron K is still with us. Now Ron is someone who's been very active with a structure that exists in this town called neighborhood councils. I'm a member of the neighborhood council in my area, the Greater Echo Park Elysian Valley Neighborhood Council. I'm a recent member, but Ron's been working with the neighborhood council for some time, and Martin Luther King Coalition worked with a group that Ron has been working with that has been trying to deal with budget issues in the city of Los Angeles. So Ron, maybe you can give us a few words tonight about that effort, just to share with people, you know, some of what that's basically about. And you know, at a later date, maybe we come back and have more discussion.
Well, thank you, Quasi. It's
Come on up. Come on up.
the budget issue. I mean, money is the question, and where it goes and what it buys. We've got. I'm shocked to have minders like in Iran or some totalitarian state watching what goes on here from what's clearly not very threatening. And celebrating. I understand, but that's a waste of money.
Right.
That's a waste of people who could be doing good. They waste unbelievable amounts of money. They put it in their pockets. They put it in the pockets of billionaires. They're building a $52 million parking lot with money for the poor. Money that's supposed to help the poor is being used to build a parking lot for the richest man in town, Eli Broad, to put up an art museum for his staff to park on Bunker Hill that the public paid for. All those buildings we paid for. CRA's dead.
That's right.
And that money should be going to creating better communities in East LA, South LA, most of the Valley, all over this town. The budget issue, the mayor is about to engage in a public conversation with neighborhood councils. I had a call today from one of the budget advocates. It's something to pay attention to. This is our money. It's the public's money, and it should be going to making this a great city for all the people and not just those who get all the money out of this city, especially the politicians and the people who own them. It's a chance for civic participation, and it's not just the poor. This is a fight, from my point of view, where we're all in this together. The only way we're going to win is when we have the people on the west side, the valley, the rich, the middle class, the poor, working together to get what they need, and it's different. They are about to build 30 or 40 skyscrapers in Hollywood in order to feed the system of churning money that will make this a worse town. We can do something if we'll all work together. It's black and brown and white in all the classes, and I think, in my heart, having worked in Montgomery in 68, 69, and 70, that Martin Luther King stood for that. And that was what was inspirational, was we're all in this together. And the neighborhood councils, the political process, Occupy LA has triggered something. And I think Alberto, it's triggered an energy in all of us. And the challenge is, can we all work together to come together and all these cells to collaborate. What one class needs is different than another, but there's enough money if we'll all work together. And what you guys are doing is fantastic.
Like Ron said, this budget fight is very, very key. Our communities are being driven to their knees. They're being driven through the ground by these budget cuts. The economy is pushing people out of the workforce. The banks are pulling them out of their homes. And then they cut off every access to everything that a human being needs through these budget cuts. Liberals and conservatives, Republicans, Democrats, the politicians are all going the same way because they're all controlled behind the scenes by the corporate interests. Okay? So we can't get even the smallest, slightest issues in our communities dealt with anymore. We have almost no friends in those arenas at all anymore. Maybe one or two here and there who will stand up against the crowd. But the rest of that crowd is all in the pockets of big money because they're afraid to stand up to them because somebody else will get the financing to run them out of office on the next round, and they all know it.
Right, that's right.
So the only way for us to fight this is with people power. People power is the only answer to this situation. And the Occupy movement is the only movement in this country right now that has galvanized people power in a serious way. So what we're saying in Occupy the Hood, we've been saying it for a long time, we have to become a community-based movement. We have to have roots in every community. We have to move all the people with us, door to door, house to house, block to block, neighborhood to neighborhood. And we have the capacity to do that because we have people from all over the place in this movement ready to move together. So we've got to continue to build this fight around the foreclosures. We've got to expand that fight and reorganize the tenants who had the biggest turnout of tenants in the history of LA year before last. I was down here. Bilal and the tenant activists must have had 600 or 800 people packing in the city council. They've never seen action like that before. But the Apartment Owners Association went to work behind the scenes and they brought it down. They pulled the strings on our politicians and they turned over and didn't pass the rent control proposal that they said that they were going to pass. Just like they said we could camp here. And a couple of weeks later, some of them who said that they were supporting that were the first ones up to say, oh, they've got to go now. We've had enough of them. And as Ron can testify,
I got the video. Eric Garcetti came down and said
our
you can
mayor-
stay as long as you need to.
our mayor has used, we think, very false figures about what it will cost to repair the lawn or whatever for several thousand citizens who were here for 2.5 months, but they didn't bat an eye to spend $1.2 million to pay off the corrupt housing director of this town who was booted for misappropriation of funds, overspending on frivolous costs, $2,000 and $3,000 and $4,000 for lunch.
That's right.
For lunches. They document us on the front page of the LA Times. But the mayor was running around saying that Occupy LA was too much of a financial drain on the city.
What about the $2 million spent on pigs?
But you know what? That's fine. We'll be at his house early. We're going to be at his house early Monday morning. But remember, when we go to the mayor's house, excuse me, we are not just going there for ourselves. We are going there with a program for the people of this city. Yes, we are going to condemn the eviction of Occupy LA from City Hall, but we're also condemning the eviction of homeowners from their homes throughout our communities. The eviction of tenants out of their apartments throughout LA because they can no longer pay the exorbitant rents. And people are stacked up on top of each other with their families, their friends, and total strangers just to keep a roof over their head. And why? Because we've got thousands of people who are actually living in the streets. They've been there for years. And no one has stood up to say, this has to be stopped. But we're standing up to say it now. And it's appropriate that we do it on Dr. King's birthday. We've got to use his methodology to our own advantage. And one last thing before we wrap up tonight. This is a very good book to read. It's called A Testament of Hope, The Essential Writings and Speeches of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I think every occupier needs to read this book. In particular, you need to read his speeches and writings after 1965. Why? Because up to 1965, he usually spoke in very broad philosophical terms. But what you find out, if you really read him, is that after 1965, Dr. King was talking in great detail about economics, about the connection between economics and racism in America, about economics and classism in America. Dr. King was already 25 years ahead of the pack talking about globalism and what that meant for internationalism and why we have to be hooked up with struggles for economic justice around the world if we're struggling for justice in America. So you need to read this. You need to read his thought, because many of us believe the reason he was taken off the scene was because he was getting too deep into the things that we're talking about today. And he had a lot to say about it. So check it out. I was going to lay some quotes on you, but we don't have time for that tonight. But get the book and check it out yourselves. And we're going to post some stuff up on our listserv, you know, to push it along a little bit. But get down with it, because there's a lot of equipment in there for our movement already in place. Okay? And we as occupiers, all of us, we have to become organizers, not just activists, not just demonstrators, and not just protesters. We need to become organizers, and we need to start putting a program into the hands of the people in our communities to fight for their own interests, not just protest the people in power. We need to get clear in the minds of the people what solutions will actually work to solve their own problems, and then help to unleash them to go after it. That is what Occupy in the Hood is about, and that is what we hope that the Occupy movement in LA as a whole is also going to be about from this point out. If we do that, we will continue to grow and thrive. We will continue to see a constant influx of people into this movement. And we're all tired. We've all been very, very active since before the eviction here. We've been even more active since then. Okay? But
Can I say something before you?
yes, sir. Hold on a second.
Okay.
But it ain't over yet. Okay? And the reality is that the real power of this movement is not you and me and those of us who come down here for GAs. The real power is out there. And that is the power we have to start galvanizing if we want to change things. We've got to galvanize that power. That is our role. So whatever you're doing, whatever issues you're focusing on, really think, what would Dr. King do in this situation? How would he organize around it? Because you know what? You know he wouldn't be passive. If he was around today and he saw all these homeless people in the street, would he just be ho-hum? Would he just be, oh, how terrible, and walk on? Hell no. Hell no. He'd be right here on the West Hall steps of City Hall figuring out a strategy to organize people, and then he would go out and organize them.
That's right.
So it's good for us to think about the problems, but it's better for us to do something about those problems. So we have to become organizers to do that. And that is what Occupy the Hood is about. All right? Bilal has just hooked up a training program for Occupy activists with LA CAN. It is one of the best organizations that exist in Los Angeles that organize people. Community Coalition for Substance Abuse Prevention and Treatment is another organization that organizes people. We have to become organizers. We can learn from the experience of these organizations, and that is what we need to do. And when they're already carrying the ball on the issue, we need to help them carry that ball and make some points. Okay? And if nothing's being done, then we need to start it. And then once we start it, we need to finish it. Go ahead, brother.
All right. I want to start out by thanking Quasi for all the work that he's put in. I was a little worried about him down there camping out every night, getting sick. I'm calling him up, and he's hacking and in the bed. And I was telling my buddy Ron Cade, he said, "Wow, how's Quasi doing?" I said, "He's been sick." He said, "No shit, he's been down there sleeping on the ground every night." Another thing I want to say is I really think that City Hall right now is in its really appropriate state with a crime scene set. This is a crime scene.
Crime scene, that's for sure.
So this is very appropriate.
Nice.
We are outside. We have been outside and didn't know it. Now we know it. They got us gated off. They got the crime scene. They got the guys up here making the easy overtime looking at us. And I feel comfortable in this setting. And another thing I wanted to say, I was at the Empowerment Congress today, Mark Ridley Thomas's yearly event, and they had the probation chief from Alameda County there. And one of the big issues on state to county prison realignment that's going on now is that there's been no money allocated to the community to help service the population that's coming out to the streets with no resources. So in Alameda County, the probation chief, who's from the Nation of Islam, David Mohammed, he said that the county allocated 25% of the realignment budget directly to community resources. So we talked to our board of supervisors about this, and they say there's no money for us. So now we can go back and say, look, David Mohammed said that they have money for their community, and what's really ironic is that Mark Ridley Thomas invited David Mohammed. So it's not like he doesn't know. So to me, to know that you can do this for the community and not do it is blasphemy. So I just want to throw that bit of information out because it was very enlightening to me to see that. So thanks.
Thank you.
And we need to be at the supervisor's office on January 24th to let them know if you're against corporatism, you got to be against the prison industrial complex. You can't be one or the other. But anyway, we always like to end our assembly.
Wait, one more announcement. Brothers and sisters, Sunday night, 5:30 South Main. Belial, who's there every night, and tonight, but I'm going Sunday. So, but tonight, every night, 5:30 South Main, we are occupying gentrified Skid Row under an exception that was won in court to the Safer Cities Initiative. You can set up a tent legally in that box from on Main Street from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m.
But we sleep to 10 anyway.
Yeah. We need to make a statement coming into taking back to King's Day. I think that's a hell of a statement, brothers and sisters. So I will be down there Sunday night with my tent. Bring yours. Yeah. And we will stand together.
And we've been occupying, Wall Street was bailed out on the backs of Main Street, so we're occupying Main Street downtown LA. Occupy the hood, motto is, we don't deoccupy, we multiply. So, we always like to end our assemblies with a sense of unity through an expression of unity. Because that's how we're going to win. Sticking together and we're resisting, right?
Yes.
All right, so repeat after me. Wall Street may cheat us.
Wall Street may cheat us.
The police may beat us.
The police may beat us.
But they're never going to defeat us.
They'll never defeat us.
Why?
Why?
Because we're too strong.
Because we're too strong.
Too strong.
Too strong.
Keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on.
Because we don't deoccupy.
We don't deoccupy.
We don't deoccupy.
We don't deoccupy.
We multiply.
We multiply.
Why?
Why?
Because we're too legit.
Because we're too legit.
Too legit.
Too legit.
Too legit to quit.
Too legit to quit.
And no more of this bullshit.
That's bullshit.
Okay, and the very last word, there's going to be one more quote from Dr. King. And do we have a reader? Thank you. Okay, two quotes from Dr. King, back to back. Go, brothers.
All right. Admittedly, nonviolence in the truest sense is not a strategy that one uses simply because it is expedient at the moment. Nonviolence is ultimately a way of life that men live by because of the sheer morality of its claim.
All right.
If you lose hope, somehow you lose the vitality that keeps life moving. You lose that courage to be, that quality that helps you to go on in spite of all. And so today, I still have a dream.
All
All right.
And finally, our wonderful sister, please forgive me and tell me your name again.
Karima Williams.
Tarima Williams is treating all of us to pizza. Soda and their cups. Please help yourself. And thank you for coming to Occupy the Hood
Great job,
special rally
Crosby.
for Dr. King.
How many years do you
So
have,
my
by the way?
piece
How many
is
what?
they sent me
7
a
now.
message.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into how to jump this paper.
Yeah. Yeah. You should come when we have when we make decisions and start yelling at each other and arguing. Yeah, come and win it.
You wrote an article about your meeting. Motivated, okay? So,
Yeah. I can make it go straight to the stream
but I gave him
there's a way you can set it up to go upload automatically to YouTube and also to post on Twitter, but I don't know how to do that because I didn't. I don't know. But
it's archiving audio.
like I could just I'm gonna drop feed for like 30 seconds. We'll be right back. Just